Republicans every day are coming out saying, look, we're in the middle of two twin crises. This COVID-19 is spreading all across the country. Hospitals are overflowing. People are dying. And our economy is collapsing. And the president is tweeting all day and night about beating Joe Biden. We're not going to make up for 5 million votes in all of those states. It was a pretty overwhelming victory at this point.
So that's Governor Hogan of Maryland. And as a governor, as a Republican, he's a little bit more insulated than, God forbid, the Republicans in the U.S. Senate under the command of Mitch McConnell. As we mentioned earlier, Georgia's Secretary of State says fellow Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham, are pressuring him to find ways to toss legal ballots. This news has set off a few things. Questions about how voters will view the upcoming twin Senate races in Georgia. Even questions about Lindsey Graham's own race, which he just won in South Carolina. Fortunately, still with us are Jason Johnson and John Meacham. And John, you and I think it's safe to say, have never seen grown adults as intimidated, as fearful and scared to death of a president as anyone with an R after their name in Washington, certainly at the Senate level of play. Does this Georgia Secretary of State pass for a profile in courage?
Well, he's becoming the Margaret Chase Smith of the transition crisis of 2020. Remember, Margaret Chase Smith was the senator from Maine who stood up in 1950 and said that McCarthy was using un-American methods. She gave a speech called the Declaration of Conscience. She was 4 years ahead of all the men. It took them till 1954. She only got 6 senators to join her, and McCarthy dismissed them as Snow White and the Six Dwarfs. But right now, you would rather be talked about as Margaret Chase Smith than as Joe McCarthy. I think a lot of what's going on, and Jason was just talking about it, this is kind of a Republican hedge fund because they don't know how powerful Trump will be. Will he be the Wizard of Oz? Will it be all over? Or will he continue to be this ambient and fundamental force? They don't know, so they're hedging their bets.
And Jason, how would you advise Democrats in Georgia, these 2 Senate races, which, as we said, are ball game for Senate control, not only how to proceed, how to communicate with the voters, lessons learned from what we've just been through, but how to capitalize on what we can see are errors in real time on the part of Republicans, especially the guy at the head of the ticket?
Well, look, Brian, we've already seen the devil go down to Georgia, right? Lindsey Graham being exposed now as this guy who wants to play his fiddle and influence what's going on there. That's the kind of thing that needs to be focused on. I was literally just in a conversation with some organizers and some activists earlier today, and they're concerned. They're concerned about turnout. They're concerned that the message that needs to be hammered, in particular to African-American voters, is that Joe Biden's election isn't over yet. If you want the Joe Biden that you voted for, then you have to make sure Ossoff and Warnock get into office. There have to be specific policy-tailored arguments being made primarily to young voters and African-American voters to make them turn out. Now, have there been some successes so far? Yes, you got over 600,000 people who've asked for absentee ballots, and that's great and that's wonderful. But I've been saying this all along. The focus for the Democratic National Party needs to be pouring money into what people on the ground are doing. In fact, I don't even think it's necessary to hand money to Warnock or to Ossoff. You need to give money to the organizations that got people out to vote to begin with, because that's the only way they're going to win in Georgia. Trying to turn this into some sort of argument on policy is not going to win. It's got to be about your vote will matter for the presidential election, and that's what's going to get people out and moving.
And Jason, one more to you. The Democrats, I know, did not flip any of the 27 toss-ups that Charlie Cook had on his list. Do you believe that had they done what you just prescribed, perhaps that would have turned out differently?
Yeah, Brian, and also they need to listen to the people who won. Look, the only state where you flipped a Republican to a Democrat is in Georgia. Lucy McBath managed to keep her seat. All last week, you had sort of mainstream Democrats and liberal Democrats arguing about defund the police. Lucy McBath is literally a mother of the movement. She ran for office in an Atlanta suburban district because her unarmed son was shot by a white guy in Florida. If she can keep her seat in Atlanta, maybe she's got a message for people. If Georgia is a place where you can flip a Republican seat, maybe they've got a message. I think too many times the people want to listen to the consultant class in the Democratic Party instead of listening to the people who can actually win. And when you listen to the people who've actually won, you tend to be more successful on Election Day.
We are much obliged to both of these gentlemen for making time for us tonight. To Jason Johnson, to John Meacham, our sincere thanks.